Hey, what's going on YouTube? And in today's video, we are arms deep into this 2021 Chevrolet Silverado with a 3.0 liter DURAMAX engine, putting some parts in from PPE, which is Pacific Performance Engineering. So my wife and I are taking a big road trip down to Arizona this summer, pulling about a 20-foot trailer and about 8,000 pounds. So I figured I'd take a little pause here, kind of talk my 6 months of ownership with this truck, which has about 17,000 miles on it as of today. And we'll talk 3 pros, some 3 cons, and then we'll also take a look at that window sticker. And at the end of the video, I'll talk what I'm doing underneath the hood. So without further ado, let's get after it. All right, so taking a look at the window sticker for my 2021 Silverado High Country with the 3 liter, we'll kind of focus just on the 3 liter components here. So fuel economy, average at 24 miles per gallon, city 22, and highway 26. Overall, that's kind of honestly what I've experienced during the summertime here in Alaska with, I'd say, highway about 27, 28 with a light foot. For the wintertime, that's a little lot less. I'm averaging about, I'd say, between 13 and 15 miles per gallon because I do idle a lot just to warm up, but I haven't experienced any emissions issues because of that. So I think that's a huge plus with this truck and idling. It hasn't had a regen yet, which is pretty impressive, honestly, especially being a diesel here in Alaska. So for the engine itself, I'll set the standard as an option. It is a $995 upgrade to own a diesel. So you can go from a 5.3 liter gasoline engine to a diesel engine for under $1,000. And that is honestly pretty impressive. But for the total vehicle price of this truck in particular, $69,710 for my 2021 Silverado. All right, so now that we've covered the window sticker, we'll kind of jump into my first 3 cons of ownership with this 3 liter DURAMAX. First con being that the displacement size is small. And what that creates is a lot of air gaps in the engine bay and lack of insulation when warming up. So it takes upwards of 20 to 30 minutes when it's below 0 degrees to push heat into the cab. So it just spends more time idling in the morning, which I found to be a con of ownership during cold weather. For con number 2, this truck's an absolute defaholic. And what I mean by that is when we're towing with this truck, especially during the summer with our about 6,000 pound trailer, we were going through a tank of DEF, which is about 5 gallons over the course of about 700 miles, which I think is excessive compared to when you can go, I'd say 2 to 3 months without refilling your DEF around town. But when towing with this truck, something to consider is that it will considerably consume its DEF in comparison to when it's driving around town. All right, so for con number 3, we'll move to the front of the truck. All right, so for the third and final con of this 3 liter DURAMAX is going to be the variety of aftermarket performance parts for the engine in particular. And this con is likely to change because I know a lot of companies are working on parts for this engine. But as of right now, the only company that I know of that has a significant amount of parts available for this engine in particular is PPE. But right now we are limited if you do own the 3 liter DURAMAX. All right, so now that we've covered the 3 cons of ownership with the DURAMAX, first one being the displacement of the engine, 2 being the DEF consumption when towing, and the third one being the variety of aftermarket support currently, we'll go ahead and jump into the 3 pros. So for the first pro, if you haven't guessed it already, is going to be the fuel economy. Like I covered earlier, the city's going to be 22, highway's 26 with an average of 24 miles per gallon. I've actually gotten better numbers than this, just being lighter on the foot. But this is significantly higher than its gas counterparts. And another pro I found with this fuel economy is going to be when you're towing. So with our 6,000 pound camper, like I mentioned earlier, we're getting about 17 miles per gallon with this diesel engine. And you're just not going to see those numbers when you have a gas engine. Your gas mileage is going to significantly drop when power is demanded of the gas engines. So if you plan on towing a trailer, this is something to consider, is that your fuel mileage is going to be significantly higher when towing with this diesel in comparison to your gas counterparts. All right, so now that we've covered the first pro, we're going to jump to the front of the truck to cover pro number 2. All right, so for pro number 2 is going to be the towing capabilities in regards to the torque numbers that this engine produces over its gas counterparts. So within the GM realm of engines in the Silverado, it competes with a 2.7 liter with about 340 foot-pounds of torque, the 5.3 liter with about 380 foot-pounds of torque, and then the 6.2 liter and the 3 liter share the same torque numbers, being 460 foot-pounds of torque. However, the torque comes in much lower on this DURAMAX than it does the 6.2 liter, and then the torque numbers are a lot more consistent of the torque band than comparison to the 6.2 liter. Now, I've absolutely loved towing with this engine, and part of the reasons why I chose this engine over its gas counterparts is the torque that it offers, and then the future hopeful tunability of this engine once Banks comes out with their tuner. We'll see what kind of numbers we get from that. But with that tuner, I hope to get a lot more power from this engine, and we're already seeing much higher numbers with the LZ0 in comparison to this LM2. So something to look forward to as we progress with this engine. All right, so for the third and final pro is going to be the ease of service for this engine. GM did a phenomenal job designing this engine, and working on it has been a breeze when it comes to adding parts, doing oil changes, and then your fuel filters. Everything is super easy to do, and you don't need a lot of experience to do it. And I am no diesel mechanic, and I've been able to figure it out. Everything seems to be plug and play, and companies that are building parts and components for this engine are doing a phenomenal job. So I'm finding that to be a huge pro with owning this truck over the course of 6 months is going to be the ease of service on it and just keeping routine maintenance up on the truck. All right, so now that we've discussed the 3 pros of ownership with the 3-liter DURAMAX, first one being the fuel economy, second one being the towing capabilities, and the last one being the ease of service, this kind of rolls into what I'm actually doing underneath the hood right now, and that's installing 2 pieces from PPE. First one is the turbo resonator kit from them, and just comparison, the one on the left is the GM product, and then on the right is PPE. So GM's product is plastic on the outside with baffles on the inside to absorb sound, and then PPE's is machined straight through. Not exactly sure on the performance I'm going to get from this, but in due time, we'll see what happens. But overall, a beautiful piece by them. The second one is going to be the automatic transmission cooler from them. I am super impressed with this piece that they provided. It's $300-ish, so definitely worth it in comparison to what you're getting from GM. So this is GM's transmission cooler. It is super lightweight, thin, and just doesn't feel of high quality in comparison to what you're getting by PPE. So PPE is about twice the size, and I'll throw a photo in here so you guys can see the difference. But overall, it fills the space much better. And then in initial videos that I've seen, you're looking at about a 20 degrees Fahrenheit drop in comparison to what you're receiving with the GM products. So definitely recommend it for those who are going to be towing a lot with this truck. We tow at least once a month, and we're planning on doing a huge trip this summer down to Arizona. So we're installing as much as we can to see what we can get out of this truck. We've also ordered the deep dish oil pan and then the deep dish transmission pan from PPE. So we'll be installing those in future videos. So be on the lookout for that. But overall, thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. I would recommend this engine to anyone, especially because it's only a $995 upgrade to get into a diesel for under $50K, which is phenomenal and definitely worth taking if you get the opportunity. But in the next video, we're going to do a kind of a cold weather review on this truck. You can kind of see my cover on the front here, but I'll kind of talk owning this truck in Alaska when it comes to extreme cold, -40 to -50 degrees Fahrenheit, and what that is like. It does have some quirks in the cold, so be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.